Alright, so we've just started recording, and alright, so I was telling you that it took me one day teaching in a high school setting, and this was up in Michigan. I had grown up in Michigan, and I was teaching at a high school in Michigan, and what I was really surprised in that first day when I taught was how many of the students didn't want to be there. And it just seemed ridiculous to me that students had to learn if they didn't want to learn. And that's like the basic primary prerequisite. You gotta want to learn the stuff. And students that had no choice about being there often didn't want to learn it. And so I decided I would teach at a different level, where people had a choice about being there or not. So I wound up going back to school, and I taught for 10 years at the University of Houston downtown campus, and I've taught at Santa Fe Community College now for 20 years. My main interest, although math is a hobby, I keep doing math on the side, my main interest really is in math instruction, how to teach better. And teaching online has given me plenty of new opportunities to learn how to teach better. And it's been a very quick learning process for me. I felt like the middle of the spring semester when I was just like told, all right, you got to go online teach. I felt like a real fish out of water, but then I was able to teach again this summer, but really be able to thoughtfully think it out beforehand, and I just felt so much more comfortable. And so I'm really looking forward to this semester. And let me describe some basics. Let me check back into Discord here. All right. Some basics on how the course is going to be run. So, you'll use the modules button a whole lot. So when you get into Canvas, so let me go into student view. So now my screen looks like your screen when you first get into Canvas. And when you go to the modules, you see Module 0 getting started. See, it's free Office, Microsoft Office 365. And you're going to see that today we're going to be doing a lot of the lecture in a thing called OneNotes. And it's part of the Microsoft Office package. It looks like this. And we'll be doing all kinds of stuff, and you can have access to all these notes if you also have Microsoft Office downloaded on your computer. And it's free being an SFCC student, so you definitely want to do that. Alright, so here's all the assignment lists of the semester. This schedule will be super important here. Let me click on this schedule, and it tells you what we're doing when. It says today, September 8th, we're doing 3.1, functions and function notation. It tells you what's due every class period. Notice almost every class period something is due, when you're going to turn in stuff. And everything is right in here. Notice that the first week we're going to do 3.1 and 3.2. But we don't turn them in until the end of the second week. There's that 1 week delay. But you're going to have spot check of 3.1. So today we're going to cover 3.1. Before you come to class on Thursday, before 12:30 Thursday, you need to have uploaded the spot check of 3.1. Now the spot check means you've done at least 75% of the homework problems for 3.1 and you've uploaded them. When you upload them, it will be much easier and you'll get a much better result if you use a scanning app like on your phone. If you just take pictures, suppose you did 5 pages of work and it takes way longer to take 5 pictures and upload each of them separately than if you get a scanning app that it'll combine all 5 pictures into one little upload for you, and it'll be a much better thing that I'll be able to see as well. I'm going to be putting you each into groups in a little while and have you talk with, chat within your group. And if you have questions about what scanning app you might want to use for your type of phone, you might be asking other people in your groups that question if you don't already have one. All right, so you can see that you're going to have these spot checks due. Every day, whatever I assign, today I'm going to assign 3.1. The very next class, you have to have uploaded the spot check for that 3.1. All right, now, by the end of next week, on the 17th of September, you have to have the final version of 3.1 turned in. Now, there's a separate upload for the final version of 3.1. If, however, you did everything complete for the spot check and you uploaded it, then you don't have to upload anything into the 3.1 homework assignment. If there's nothing in the 3.1 homework assignment upload at the time that it's due, then I will just look at what's in the spot check. So, you don't have to do 2 separate uploads for each assignment, but you can. What most students will be doing, though, is they'll do 3.1 homework for Thursday. They'll have at least 75% done. And then Thursday, there'll be questions that'll be asked. And you'll probably get new insights, and some of the tougher problems, ones that you couldn't get or weren't sure about your answer, you'll see them worked out, and then you'll say, I know how to do that, and so you'll probably fix a number of things in your 3.1 and want to upload a separate, your final version of 3.1 when it's due to be turned in. And so the dates of everything and the exam dates are all listed on here, and what sections an exam covers. Everything's in this schedule. So I'd recommend you hitting this download button to download the schedule, and then printing it out, and then have that so at a quick glance, and you glance at that every day to make sure that you're always on schedule. And when you're looking at the assignments and you say, okay, 3.1, which problems in 3.1 do I do? You click on this assignment list. And again, I'd recommend clicking, if you hit the print button from here, it won't give you a very good printout. You download the assignment list and then print it out. You'll get a better copy for printing. And then, all right, so this is the assignment list. So before each section, so the section 3.1 is called Functions and Function Notations. And you only do those specific problems. You don't have to do all the problems. Before each one of these, there's a review assignment. And it's just like 4 problems, like problems 1 through 4 on page 70 of the textbook. Reviewing some skill. Often the skill that we're having you review is a skill that you need when you work out the assignment. So both of these will be turned in as part of the 3.1 homework assignment. And most students write these out on paper and then, do some kind of, use a scanning app to take pictures and upload them. Most students, and what I'd prefer is that you did the review assignment first at the top of the page. But you put at the very top that is 3.1, so it's really easy to see. This is the 3.1 assignment, starting with the review assignment, and then the rest of the problems. All right, let me zip over real quick into Discord. Any questions so far? And you can ask questions by unmuting your microphone and speaking, or by typing in the chat in the center. Anybody having an issue with being able to see or hear, or any questions that are coming up so far?
I have a question real quick. What exactly?
Can you identify yourself?
I am Beverly.
Beverly, okay.
What exactly is the spot check homework? Is it the page that pulls up when you click on OneNote?
Okay. No, the spot check, good question. The spot check is the same assignment. So it's, the review assignment and the 3.1, it's all these problems. It's just that you have to have them done for the next class. Okay, and let's go back to the modules. So when we get down into the modules, you'll see as we go into module 1, there's some information in these first two little links. But then here's practice homework 3.1. If I click on this, it just restates what the problems are. And it also has a button for submitting the assignment. So you can click on the assignment and then it asks you, for the information for the upload. Okay, so right after 3.1 is, you see this other link that says practice spot check of 3.1. And the homework 3.1 is worth 7 points, but the spot check is worth 3 points. Now if I click on the spot check, it doesn't really say anything. All it really has is the submit assignment button. And so if you click on the submit assignment, you can then upload those problems from 3.1. Beverly, does that answer your question?
Kind of. So the spot check is just 75% of the homework that we will have to turn in.
Correct. At least 75%.
Okay.
And it's got a time limit. Notice that it says it's available until September 10th, which is 2 days from now on Thursday at 10:30 p.m., just before class. And then this closes out and you cannot submit the spot check. The spot checks cannot be submitted late. Those 3 points, you either have them submitted by that time or you don't. If come Thursday you don't have at least 75% done, you haven't uploaded your spot check, then you can still submit the assignment for 3.1, but the maximum you can get is 7 points then on the assignment. So you've just gone down from 100% possible to only 70% possible if you miss the spot check. Okay. Now is it clear, Beverly?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, and okay, so let's go to simple syllabus. This is the syllabus for the course. Gives the basic course information. and my contact information. Talks about the textbook. The textbook, let's go right into the textbook right away. The textbook is free. It's OpenStax textbook. And there's a picture of it. And it's Algebra and Trigonometry. And so to access this book, let me show you. I'm going to go to a new window. Go openstax.org, or you could just Google OpenStax, S-T-A-X. I'll spell it. Okay, and then I go into the subjects part, and then into math. And then we see the textbook that we're using, Algebra and Trigonometry, the red one. Click on that. And then at the far left are some options for getting the book. And it'll look different when you access it in one of two ways. There's download a PDF. If you use this one, it will look exactly like the physical copy of the book. Now let me go back to the camera. Here is the physical copy of the book. And you open it up. Now, if you want something that looks exactly like the physical copy of the book, then, and by the way, that book can be purchased on Amazon for about, I've seen it between $40 and $60. But if you go to download a PDF, you click on that, it'll wind up coming in looking like this. And now you move around in this via these page numbers at the top. So if I put in page, now the first assignment, it says it's on page 176. I put in 176, but that's not the, notice that it tells you it says book page 158 in the upper left hand corner. And so you actually have to add, if you want the real page 176 of the textbook, you have to add 18 to it. So page 194, because there's an offset by 18. There is the problems, and there's page 176 from the physical book showing up. And here are all the problems, and the specific problems you're assigned in there are, starting with number 7, and then so on, etc. And that's one way to access the book. The other way is if you click on View Online. If you go to View Online, you click on that, it sends you, let me do that, View Online. Right. And then you don't have page numbers to move around on. And so you would go to the chapter 3, functions, functions and function notation. Here it is, and then everything in the book is here. And if I wanted to look on the other one, like the explanations, I just go to the previous pages. And here I could scroll down until I get to the problems. And this has a different formatting than the actual, what it looks like in the physical textbook. But it corresponds. And this has, you can click on one of these and view the answer. So it's just the odd numbered problems. If I click on number 9, it sends me to the solutions for 3.1 and number 9, and it tells me what the solution is. And then I can hit the back button and go back to problem number 9 and look at all these. All right. So there's the textbook basic information. Any questions here so far? Okay. And, all right, now we started class at 12:30. The format of this class is going to be, we're going to go from 12:30 to approximately 1:15. We'll take a 15-minute break, and then we'll go from approximately 1:30 on to 2:15. So 2 45-minute hunks. Okay. And all right. So and then other stuff in the simple syllabus, the major topics of the course, the grading scale, how your course is graded. This is a syllabus is really a kind of a contract between you and your professor about how your grade is going to be determined this semester. And so a couple of important things here is, so you can see that your assignments is going to be 40% of your grade, exams 40%, cumulative final exam is 20% of your grade. The homework, how it's going to be graded is, let me just read this all out. The objective is for every student to get 10 out of 10 for every homework assignment. I'm going to assist you in that. When I encounter mistakes in your work, I will tell you which problems to redo. You'll have 1 week to redo those problems. So 3.1 and 3.2, they get officially turned in next Thursday by 11:59 p.m. When I go that weekend, when I go over those problems, I don't go and necessarily just assign grades. I have specific problems that I look at that I think are good representative problems, and I'm going to see how you're doing on those. And if you have all those correct, I will be giving you full credit. You get 100%. If I find mistakes, I'll be putting a little comment. I won't assign a grade. I will just put a comment in there, and I'll say number 16 is wrong. Correct your error and upload. And if I only tell you one problem is wrong, you only need to upload that one problem. You don't have to re-upload the whole assignment or anything like that. You can just take a pic, redo the one assignment. I've already given you credit for everything else. I've just stated that this one thing is wrong, and then you redo that problem, get an image of it, upload that in there, and then when I check again if that's correct, I will give you a full credit, 100%. If it's not, I'll say, well, it still has an error, and then you redo it. You have 1 week again to redo it, and then tell you. So hopefully everybody gets 10 out of 10 on all of the homework. That's the objective. Okay. Late work. It's a really big late penalty. The first late assignment earns full credit. Future late assignments earn only 50% credit. All right, so you'll lose a lot more points by being late with your work than by anything else. That's why keeping on the schedule is so important. I didn't used to be such a stickler about this, about being late, but somewhere in my 30 years of teaching, it was many years ago, it occurred to me that the classes that, when I was a student and a math student, if I had homework that was due once a week, I would tend to wait till the night before it was all due and then do all the homework. And only on those courses where it was asking for something each week, each day, was I actually doing the stuff each day. And when I was doing it every day, I learned so much more. And I had a chance to ask the questions that, and the other one was actually extremely stressful. When I would do it the night before, if I ran into something that I really didn't understand, it was too late to really ask questions, and it was like I just had to make my best guess and then slap something down, and it just worked out so much better when I was keeping up to date. So then I changed my philosophy, changed my system that make it a really significant portion of your grade. That of keeping up to date every day and not being late. And if you stay on top of this math stuff, you'll find it so much easier to learn. All right, and then the spot checks. Homework spot checks are due the next day after assignment is given. At least 75% of the problems must be completed with a spot check. Each assignment is worth 10 points, but 3 of those points come from spot checks. And then I describe more, but we've gone over much of this. Okay, so please read the rest of this stuff on your own in there. I have a note in there that you'll see that I've put spot checks in up until the halfway point of the semester. And after the halfway point of the semester, after midterm grades are given out, there's no more spot check uploads available. And the reason for that is because Canvas has a limit on how many assignments I can have you turn in online. And I reached that limit just shortly after the halfway point of the class. All right, so once you get to the second half of the class, we will still be doing spot checks. I will still be spot checking them the day after assignment, but there won't be 2 separate uploads for it. It'll all be in the same thing. So if it's on section, chapter 4, section 5, there's just one upload spot for it. But you have to have the spot check uploaded at a certain time, and then the full assignment uploaded by its due date. All right. Any questions? All right, so there's more stuff in here, general policies. All right, let's go. Back to here. All right, so now you should see on my screen, I'm in Discord. And all right, on the far left, you should see group 1 all the way through group 6. Everybody see those things? Okay, and I'm going to be assigning each of you a group number, and then I'm going to have you go into that group. Now to go into that group, like if I'm in group 2, I just click on group 2. Notice, if I've clicked on group 2, I can't see the text that was previously there. I will just be texting within my group when I'm over here. Okay, when I want to get back to the general texting for the whole class, I go back to Text Channels General and I click that. And then I'm back to the whole class. So you're going to have to be switching back and forth. You're going to be getting a group that you're going to have for the rest of the semester. And working in your group as well as interacting with the whole class will be equally important. We'll be doing a lot of both. Now, whenever you're in a group, so I'm over here in my group, and there'll be other people in this group in a little while after I give you the group numbers. You type the message, everybody in your group sees it. Well, if somebody is in the general text channel, if somebody else types something into their group channel, they will get a little notification. So you'll know when to switch back and forth when somebody in your group is texting back and forth. And what you're going to need to do though is, besides getting into your group and just typing a quick hello, this is me, to let everybody know that you're in the group, you're going to have to silence all the other groups, so that otherwise you're going to get notifications when anybody in any group sends any message. Alright, so let me show you how you silence all the other groups. So group 2, suppose that's my group. Then I go to group 1, I right click on it, I go to mute channel, and I go to until I turn it back on. So group 1 is muted for the whole rest of the semester. And that's what you want to do. You want to mute all the other groups except for the one group that you're in. Otherwise you'll be hopelessly, being notified all the time that there's a group message for you. Alright, now I'm going to mute channel all of these group channels, but you're going to mute all the ones except for the one that you're in. So everybody see how I'm doing it? Right clicking, mute channel. Etc. Let me do my last two. Alright, so now let me have you see what group you're in. As soon as you see what group number you're in, go back into Discord, go into that group thing, type a quick message so that they know you're in the group, and then mute all the other channels. So here is your group numbers. Find your name and your number. And then take care of muting all the other channels, please. Alright, let's see, I've got 2 people, 4, okay, we've got at least 2 people in every group. Hopefully you've silenced all the other groups, muted them, and alright, now also, we are going to go by alphabetical order of first names. So you can see the different people in your group. Like, so on. Now, each group is going to, every day, will have a spokesman. I don't know. Does anybody know how to right-click on a Mac to silence? You might also be able to, instead of doing it with right-clicking, you might go to Edit Channel, and there might be something there. I don't know. Okay, some other folks will give you some advice. Alright, so oh yeah, alphabetical order by first name. So the group spokesman for today is the person who is first in alphabetical order by first name. So if your name is Amy and you start with an A, you'll probably be first today. You'll be the spokesman today. And then the next class that we meet on Thursday, the spokesman for the day will be the next person in alphabetical order. So if Brian was in that group, Brian would be the spokesman on Thursday, and so on. And every day we'll rotate who the spokesman for the group will be. There'll be times during class where I'm going to be giving problems to groups, and then I'll call on group 3. I'll say, group 3, what did you get? And the spokesman for the day on group 3 will be then saying, oh, this is what we got for this problem, and then I'll dialogue back and forth with that person, and so on. All right. All right, so we are at a break point now, so let's take a 15-minute break. We will start again. It is now 1:13, so at 1:28 p.m. And I'm going to mute my microphone until 1:28 p.m. Unless anybody, I'm going to stick around for a couple minutes here. If anybody has any difficulties or any quick questions they want to ask me. Otherwise, I'll see you again in 15 minutes at 1:28. Yes.
Hey, Wendy, Everett.
Hi, Whitney.
Hi, I was calling about Pepper's prescription refill from Algebra
Yes.
for the medicine for the, for the...
Carprofen?
No,
Which would?
for the extended release or the regular...
Oh, gotcha.
So,
LEV something.
yeah, the short name for that is Pepra.
Okay.
So, the one that got back in was the wrong prescription again.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's the regular one, not the extended release, and the extended release is what I confirmed again with Dr. Cameron that he wants Pepper on. So, Alibet might reach out to you and tell you that it was declined and we needed to redo your request with the XR on it. There is a refill there, because I confirmed with them. I just got off the phone with them about an hour ago.
Okay, so the pills that I have right now do say XR on them.
Yes, and that's what you need.
Okay, keep with the
But
XR.
the prescription that was requested is not XR.
Oh, okay.
So
Gotcha.
there's just a small error. They know about it. They know that that one is denied, and that they'll probably reach out to you. But I wanted to verbally speak to you again so that
Okay.
so you knew what was going on.
Okay, great.
So you have to hop back up on there and do the XR one again. And there is a refill of 200 tablets still on there. I confirmed that with them this morning.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. We still have plenty of the other pills, so it'll be a little while before I order it again. But okay, when I do,
Okay.
I'll know that.
I just wanted you to know that when you do that, it's the XR.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Okay, we're going to start up again, and we're going to get into the math now. And so, first lesson is 3.1, functions and function notation. And this is one note that I'm using up here. And you can have access to all these notes. One of the announcements describes how to simply click on a certain link that I provided once you have OneNote as part of Microsoft Office on your computer, and then you'll have access to this for the rest of the semester. I'll just keep adding. See on the far right here it says 3.1. The next section will be 3.2 underneath it, and you'll have all the notes for the whole semester. I've asked students who have already gone through a semester with me with OneNote whether they tend to take notes on their own, and most students say that they tend to take notes as well because it helps keep them engaged. But this is helpful, like if you ever get behind in your notes, you can always just say, all right, I don't have to. I can stop taking notes. I can put my focus on what's going on and make sure I understand it, and I can always go back and look at OneNote later to fill in what I'm doing. Okay. So we start out with a couple of definitions. A relation is a relationship between an input variable and an output variable. Let me just make sure that my mic was turned on. Yes. Okay. And a function, it's exactly the same thing. It's a relationship between an input variable and an output variable, but it has this extra little clause at the end, where each input has exactly one output. So, in my example, the post office. X is going to represent the weight of a package in pounds. Y is the cost of mailing the package in dollars. Every relationship between a variable X and a variable Y is a relation, because look at the definition. It's a relationship between an input variable and output variable. There are no conditions on it. Only some relations are functions, because to be a function, it has to satisfy this clause way at the end. Does the following table represent a function? Look carefully at the definitions. So, look at this table and decide whether this represents a function or not. In order to do that, you have to look carefully at these two definitions of a relation and a function. And then what I'm going to have you do is, in Discord, go into your group, and then you're going to type in your answer. Now, here's what I want you to do though. When I've worked in groups myself in classes, sometimes it has made the class come alive. Sometimes it's been very frustrating because I'm a really slow reader, and a common problem for me was I'd just be trying to figure out what the question is, and somebody else is telling me what the answer is already, and I haven't had time to process what's going on. So what I'm going to have you do is, everybody is going to be waiting for about a minute or so before typing in anything in their group. And I'll give you the cue when I want you to start typing in. And then multiple people will be typing in at the same time, and that's great. And then you can look at, when yours is up, other people's will be up, and then you can kind of keep chatting back and forth to see, how wise, which one is right. Is your answer right or is mine? And I'll give you a little bit of time to try to work that out. Before we go to that, though, does everybody realize who the spokesperson is for your group today. If your name is the earliest, first name is earliest in the alphabet, you're the spokesperson, so when I call on your group, you'll be the one who speaks up for the group. All right, so go ahead. Look at this problem for a minute. And when I tell you, go ahead and enter it into your group chat. All right, you can go ahead and enter answers into your group chat. And dialogue back and forth. See if you can come up with a consensus as a group, whether this is a function or not, and why. Okay, 30 seconds more. Okay, let me have you stop. All right, group 3. Let's look at this table. And let me circle these two items. Something looks fishy where it says where each input is exactly one output. I'm going to say this is not a function because of these two being the same. Group 3, do you agree with me that this is not a function, or do you think it is a function?
We agreed that it wasn't a function.
That it is not a function, and for the same reason, because of these 6's?
Yeah.
Okay, that is what my initial reaction to this problem would be if I was a student in your shoes. Turns out, though, that it's wrong. This is a function. Yes, it's a function. Can anybody offer an explanation of why? Go ahead and unmute your microphone if you've got
It's the reason it's a function is because each input must have one output, but the 2 and the 3 are different inputs versus the output. So
very
I
good.
always remember it as in you can have like 2 different numbers pointing towards the output to the same output, but you can't have the same output doing that, the input pointing to 2 different
Very good.
inputs.
Very good. All right, so it says where each input, oh, and one other thing. I'm going to have you, until we get used to each other's voices, I'm going to have you from now on, when you, the first time that you speak as spokesman for your group for the day, or that you interject with an answer or something, that you identify your first name. Say, I'm Brianna, whatever, and then da-da-da. So if we look at this little clause real carefully, where each input has exactly one output. Well, how many outputs does 1 have? That input has 1 output. How many outputs does the 2 have? 1 output. How many outputs does the 3 have? 1 output. How many outputs does the 4 have? 1 output. Each input has exactly 1 output. That's why it's a function. Yes, it's a function. Okay, now, it kind of looks like I crossed it out. All right, somebody should get their microphone on. I'm hearing some extra noise. All right, so then, now it asks us, modify the table so that it changes from a function to not a function. So now we know it was a function. Change something in here so that it is now not a function. So I'm going to give you all a minute and wait until I give the go and then start typing in your chat group. Okay, go ahead and type it into your chat group. How could you change it so that it is now not a function? more. 30 seconds more. All right, group 2. How can we change this so that it's not a function? And by the way, whenever I call on anybody or any group, you can always say pass. If you're uncomfortable for any reason, just say pass. Group 2, what do you got?
We said that we could change. Oh, this is Annika, by the way.
Great.
We said that we could change one of the inputs to be the same as one that's already there. So, for example, we could change 4 to 3, and then it would have 2
Very
different
good.
inputs, so it couldn't be a function.
So now one input of 3 has 2 different outputs of 6 and 7. So that does it. Now it's not a function. Now, what's the big deal? Why do we make it so important? Most of the time, we will be working with functions. And most of the time, there'll be some exceptions, but most of the time we'll not be interested in things that are not functions. Functions take up most of our attention. If they're not functions, we're usually not interested in them. Why is that the case? Well, we don't find things that are not functions generally very useful. Let's look at this first one. Would this cause a problem in the post office that the $6 was in there twice? Actually, not a problem at all. In fact, if you go to a post office today, they'll probably have ranges. They'll say between, this many pounds and this many pounds, this is going to be the price. Between this many pounds and this many pounds, this will be the price. And so 2 different poundages might have the same price. That happens all the time. This is not going to cause any problems. Is this going to cause a problem? Oh yeah, Somebody with exactly the same pound of package might be, exactly the same in every way. One person gets charged $6 and the other gets charged $7. There's going to be complaints about that. What we want is what's called predictability. For a given input, we always get the same output. Then it's predictable. And then we find it useful. If it's not, it's unpredictable, and we don't find much use to it. I would venture to say that, with very few exceptions, almost every man-made device is a function. If your phone was not a function, then when you hit the 4 key, a 4 might show up, but it might show up as a 3 sometimes. And when you hit the 4 key, a 3 shows up. Ooh, that element of predictability is gone, and we find it not useful. We want things to be, when you give this input, you always get this output. When you have that relationship, then we can make something useful out of that. If your steering wheel was not a function, then when you pulled it to the right, when you pulled the top of the steering wheel to the right, your car might turn right, but maybe not. It might turn left. So if your steering wheel was not a function, pulling it to the right might turn your car left. Boy, we would find that not very convenient at all. Not very useful. We want the element of predictability, and that's why we require it to be a function. But notice, to get that predictability, each input has exactly one output. Output can duplicate, and we want it to be this case and not the other. All right, now let's go next to a constant never changes. A variable gets to vary. That's the root word of variable, is vary. And because it gets to vary, it plays what-if games. State whether each of the following is a constant or a variable. So, gallons of gas I use in a month, etc. So, for each one of these, you can write C for constant, V for variable. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to work that on your own. And then in your chat group, enter in your answers and then discuss it very briefly, and then I'll call on a group in a minute. So let's give a little time before entering it into your chat group. Just think about it for a minute. Okay, start entering them into your chat and dialogue about that. All right, 15 seconds left. All right, group 1. What do you have for each of these? Group 1, do I have somebody there? Let's go to group 4. What do you have? My microphone on? Yep. Anybody from group 4?
Yes.
Okay, what do you got?
We got number 1, constant.
This is a constant. Gallons of gas I use in a month. You say that's a constant. Why is it a constant?
Well, we also got different different opinions from other classmates, and we also got that it's not a constant because you don't always use exactly the same number of gallons every month.
It depends on kind of how you look at this one. If you
Yeah.
looked at it as just 1 month, yes, it would be a constant. But if you're looking at it through the course of a year, then it can, 1 month it was this, and so you could look at it, you could make a case for either one. I'm going to go with V for variable because we can change it to different months and we can look at it like this. So we'll call it the variable. Okay, what about number 2? And who are you?
Diego.
Okay. So what do you got number 2?
Let me see. Number 2, we agree that it will be constant.
Can it ever change? Nope, it's always 7.
Yeah,
So
and
that's why it's a constant. Okay?
yeah.
Keep going.
Give me 1 second. And then we got that number 3 is a variable.
Because it can vary.
Yep. And
Next day you could have put on extra weight, so on.
that number 4 is constant.
Is a constant. It doesn't change. Grandpa was always 89 years old when he died. That was it. Okay. Next thing is create a function. Example. The input X is the miles I drove today. The output Y is the gallons of gas I used today. Notice that I described 2 variables. As one changed, the other also changed. So, your task is to come up with a function. You're going to describe the input variable, the output variable, and we'll talk about it in a minute. So, this one, you can go ahead and start typing in right away. Think of a function of your own that's different than one that has come up so far, and then I'll call on somebody in a moment. Call on the group. Okay, 30 seconds left. Okay, let me have you stop. And before I call on a group, let me describe what's needed here. I'm going to have each group come up with a group leader. Now, the group leader, your task is going to be this. Just a few things. Notice that as we go on with lectures, there might be times when you get lost. And when you get lost, one of the things you can do is go to your chat group and say, "Whoo, I'm lost. I didn't get that." And as a group leader, one of the responsibilities you're going to have is if somebody types in your chat group, "I'm lost," and you agree with it, or you see two people who have put in "I'm lost" in your group, then it's your responsibility to interrupt me verbally and say, "Robert, hold on, we got some people who are lost." And then I can address the issues and we can, get back on the same page. Okay? The other task of the group leader will be to make sure that everybody knows at the beginning of each day who the group spokesman is. Because you might come in one day and you forget, well, who was their spokesman last time? And so on. So the group leader is going to remind everybody at the beginning of each day who the spokesperson is, how it rotates. And if you ever forget, you just make up, start over, and we'll just say, Juan is going to be the group leader today. And then the third thing the group leader is going to do is, if I ever call on a group and I get no response, then the group leader will step in and then respond for the group. And that can legitimately happen. Somebody can be a parent and be taking this online class at home, and their kid just, has an emergency, and they got to go take care of their kid, and they've stepped away from their computer, and I call on their group, and they're the spokesman, and then the group leader is going to step in when nobody else responds, and then speak up for the group. All right, so before answering this, everybody go and in your chat group decide who is going to be the group leader, and we need one group leader from each group. So let me give you a minute to do that. Okay, is there anybody who doesn't have a group leader yet? You can state it out loud or type it in. Otherwise, I'm going to assume every group has a group leader. 4 doesn't. Okay, can we get a volunteer in group 4 to be the group leader? We're going to need that. 5, 3 doesn't. All right, we're going to have some people to step up. It's a big job. All right, 4 is good. 5 and 3, we need somebody to step up, be the group leader. Okay, before you leave today, somebody's got to do it. You'll have to figure it out on your own here. Okay, so let me go. Let's go to group 6. Please describe your function.
I'm Sienna,
Okay.
and our function we decided was going to be the input would be the number of hours that a person, me, I guess, reads a book, and y is the number of pages that I finished during that time.
Okay. Hours and y is the pages. Page like
Yeah.
the pages read or something like
Yeah.
that. Okay. All right. So then you'd probably get some kind of somewhat um, of a relationship between these two, between the hours and pages read. And this one would probably be very valuable after a while to get the average. And then you'd say, on average, I can read, 12 pages in an hour. And now it turns out that something like this, though, and this is a great example for demonstrating this, it technically would not be a function. Because the function, each input has exactly one output. This one time you're going to read more technical material, and another time real light material or a smaller book or a great big font and so on. And so one input isn't always going to give you the same output over here. And when you have one input giving you the same output, we have a special kind of relationship that we then call function. So this one might be a relation. Now, for each person, you might come up with an average number of pages read, and then it would be a function. Or it could become a function then, if you then, say, okay, we're not going to take any more data. All right. So, another is ways to represent functions. And how do you, put down a function on paper? I'm kind of listing the input and the output. There's other ways to do that besides this. So this one is a kind of a brainstorming thing. So in your groups, and you can start doing it right away now, just start putting as many different ways you can think of to represent functions. And I'll call on a group in just about 30 seconds, so move quick. Okay, let me go to group 5. Can you name some ways to represent functions?
We were a little confused as to how, by the way, my name is Eve, as to what we meant by represent functions, but would that be like a word problem or a graph?
Very good. You're right on track. All right, so I'm going to take the camera and point it down here. And let's swing this around a little bit. So representing functions. And one that I heard you said was a graph. And then another one was, you said like a word problem?
Yeah.
All right. We'll say using words. All right. So these are huge. I've been kind of using words so far when I listed X is this, and I write what the input is and what the output is. Like, you know, X is the input. Is the output. All right. And so we're getting some feedback. I think there's a microphone still left open. So,
Is that yours?
great. And then beyond this, there are equations. Something like y equals x squared plus 3. That describes the relationship between an input and output variable. Beyond this, we've also seen tables. And there's one more, which we'll say ordered pairs. When you list the ordered pairs, like for instance this equation right here, if the input is 1, the output's going to be 4. If the input is 2, it's going to be 4 plus 3 is 7, so on. You could just, now the ordered pairs go on forever, you could just list a whole bunch of them, and then if you take each one of these points and just rearrange them, you have your table. And then if you just graph each one of these, you get your, the 0.14, you get your graph. So these are really highly interrelated in here. But these are the standard ways that we represent functions. Now, we're going to look at what is not a function. And so let me come over to here. All right. So let's go back to here. I'm just going to print screen. Oops, that's blocking it. Do that again. Print screen, come back here, paste this. Hang on a second. Got to add some more space here first. All right. So then, how can you tell with each of the ways represent a function when it's not a function? So let me get a different color here. So, not a function. All right. Now, there's a couple things that I'm going to ask you all for some help with. And which is, every now and then, I'll be on this screen, and I'll think I'm in this screen, and I'll start writing on my blackboard, and you won't be able to see anything. And things go a lot smoother when people pipe up and say, hey, change your screen. So please interject and help me out. Another thing is at the beginning of class, I need to set up the recording. At the end of class, I need to stop the recording. And I tend to forget both of those. And so if somebody every day will ask me, did you start the recording? And then when we end class, if somebody will interject and say, did you stop the recording? That will be very helpful. All right, so not a function. If it's a graph, we have what's called the vertical line test. Hopefully you're already familiar with that. But you can read about that. I'm just going to describe it in words now. The vertical line test is if there's any vertical line that intersects the graph more than once. If my graph just has these 2 points in it, it's not a function. Because there's a vertical line that does exist that could intersect the graph more than once. And what that means is there's an input that has 2 different outputs. One height and then also another height. So if there's any vertical line that could intersect the graph in more than one point, then it's not a function. Using words, how can you tell if it's not a function? Well, we can't generalize that one. Equations. How can we tell if an equation is a function or not? Well, generally speaking, if it's solved for y, it'll be a function. Unless the only way it could be solved for y and not be a function is if it had something like this, a plus or minus sign. Suppose y equals plus or minus 3x. Then that's not a function because if x was 1, the y could be 3. If x was 1, the y could be negative 3. So it would have to have like a plus or minus sign. Otherwise, this gives you a recipe for how to get the one single y. It'll always be a function if it's solved for y, unless it has a plus or minus. Now, if it's not solved for y, it gets more complicated. But we won't, that's not a focus of this class. But generally speaking, if y is alone on the left-hand side, it's going to be a function unless it has a plus or minus sign. Tables, we've already talked about. How can you tell if a table is not a function? You don't even have to look at the output column. You just look at the input column. Focus on the input column. You have to have the same input more than once for it to not be a function. Ordered pairs, same thing. Just look, if all the inputs are different, then it's got to be a function. But if 2 of the inputs are the same with different outputs, then it's not a function. Okay. So we can decide whether it's not a function very quickly in all the different representations. All right. Now, I liked the way that that last question was answered. That was like, we're not sure what you meant by representing functions. But then you still took a guess anyway. That's going to be really important in this class. You'll have many of those opportunities where you're not sure exactly what's meant. But if you take a guess anyway, you'll get a whole lot more out of this course than if you play it safe every time and say, oh, I'm not sure, so I'm not going to say anything. All right. So, real quick on function notation. Instead of y, we replace it with f of x. If I had f of x equals 2x plus 3, what this really means is f of anything is 2 times that thing plus 3. Thus, what's f of h plus 1? Well, what that means is you put in h plus 1 here and here. It replaces that. So you would get 2h plus 1 plus 3. 2h plus 2 plus 3, which is 2h plus 5. Now what have I accomplished? Thus, f of h plus 1 is equal to 2h plus 5. What have I accomplished by this? The only thing that you've really accomplished is if h plus 1 is the input, 2h plus 5 is the output. That's what you've accomplished. You figured out for the function f, this input goes with this output right here. And it's a very convenient way to say outputs. This also would be true if the input is 1, you're going to get 5. If x is 1, f of x is 5. Or if x is 1, y is 5. But that all gets compressed into this really efficient little notation. F of 1 equals 5 is our preferred notation for functions. It tells you what the input is, f is some way to act on it, and it gets you this output right here. All right, we are out of time. So the homework is 3.1. So you can see what the homework assignment is in the modules. In the modules, you can look at all the homework assignments. You do those. You can also see them right in here. The spot check for 3.1 is due before you come into class on Thursday. Have those uploaded. Then you'll be in a great position to ask good questions about the difficult problems. We will stop here, and I will see you on Thursday. Any questions? Comments before I go?
There's two different assignments listed. There's like the practice for 3.1 and spot check of 3.1. What's the difference?
All right, it's exactly the same assignment. It's just what you do. The spot check is due on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to have at least 75% of those done. And then it's not until the following Thursday that the 3.1 and 3.2, the final version, is due to be turned in. And then those get graded. Okay, the spot check, I just looked to see if you had at least 75% of those done. Okay? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, anything else? All right.
Yeah, wait, one thing. I'm Mushi.
Hi, Mushi.
If I do 100% of the spot check, do I have to turn in the homework again, or can I just leave it at that?
No. If you did 100% of the spot check and you're totally satisfied with the way all those problems turned out, then you do not need to upload for the 3.1. Then, if I see there's no upload for the homework for 3.1, I'll just take what's in the spot check and I'll grade that.
Okay.
So you only have to do one. Most students usually find that they want to correct something or finish something or something, but if you did it all great on the spot check time, then you're all set.
Okay, cool.
Anything else? All right, it's a pleasure being with you. I'll see you on Thursday. Don't hesitate to email me with any questions. I'm going to stop the recording.